Your players kick in the door. Swords flash, spells fly. 10 minutes later, every bandit is dead, the treasure is looted, and you're left wondering why you even bothered drawing that map. Does it sound familiar? We've all been there. That painstakingly crafted bandit lair, the one you hoped would be a cunning challenge, crumbles faster than a week-old biscuit. The problem isn't usually the bandits themselves. It's the lair. Most D&D bandit lairs are, frankly, glorified loot piñatas. They're flat and predictable, and they offer no real tactical advantage to the very people who are supposed to live there, to know every nook and cranny. And this isn't just about making fights harder. It's about making them smarter, more memorable, and ultimately more fun. It's about creating a stronghold that feels lived in by people who, don't want to die. Hello adventurers, and welcome back to the Red Quills. My name is Ryan, and today we are going to be talking about creating another really quick lair. We're going to be talking about how to create a bandit lair in a way that's going to be interesting and memorable for your players. Now, there are a lot of different ways in which I can create a lair filled with humanoids, a lot of different, cultural awarenesses to think about. But in this particular case, rather than going, in depth into how to design a castle, how to design town guards, or how to design any particular kind of thieves guild, we're just going to go over the basics of thinking about how a group of hostile humanoids will use the environment to their advantage, and how you can create challenges for your players that go beyond mere combat with other humans. Because the thing to think about is, of course, that any bandit encounter that they come across will mean that the humanoids that they're facing are most likely of a similar intelligence to them. They will be able to outthink each other. And that's something that we can really, really work with, a level of tactics and strategy that really allows us to expand ourselves without facing too much lore in terms of, who they worship, what their methods or abilities are. Because humans, bandits, general humanoids, all have their own different specialities. And that's fine. All we need to think about today is how they can think outside of the box, outside their mere combat abilities. So, ready to make your bandits feared and not forgotten? Let's lay down the groundwork. Everyone, we're going to get out our blank paper. I'm going to be using my RQ book here. I'm going to start out getting out my pencil and sketching out the rookery. What's the secret? How do you transform your bandit lairs from speed bumps into actual nail-biting strongholds that make your players sweat, strategize, and celebrate they finally overcame the odds? It's not just about adding more bandits or bigger stat blocks. It's about thinking like a defender, like a cunning rogue who values their ill-gotten gains and, more importantly, their own skin. But today we're really getting into how to craft bandit lairs that actually work. We're talking strategic locations that offer inherent advantages, layered defenses that turn a simple breach into a grueling fight for every inch, and bandit tactics that are more than just everyone rushes the cleric. Forget bowling alley encounters. We're building a fortress. So by the end of this, you'll have a toolkit of ideas that will make your next bandit lair a truly tactical challenge, a puzzle box of peril that your players will talk about for weeks. We're going to break it down into 3 core pillars. Firstly, the strategic location, because bandits will choose a lair that actually favors them. And how many times have you designed an encounter which doesn't really do that? Secondly, layered defenses. Again, they've had time to think this out. So you want to think about how to create a challenge that is one layer moving seamlessly into the next layer of defenses, of not only traps and puzzles, but their own understanding of tactics. They're thinking about how they can retreat or gain ground at any given point, preparing for people who will inevitably come and attack them. They are expecting this, and so they will prepare for it. And thirdly, smart bandit tactics. You want to be thinking about how they not only use their abilities, but they think about how to use the environment and their wits and respond to the tactics that they believe the enemy is going to use. If your players see a very obvious course of action, the bandits should be prepared for that, and they should have thought their way through how to counteract that. All right, let's lay the groundwork here. The biggest thing you can do for a bandit lair before you even think about traps or guard rosters is its location. Get this right and you've got natural defenses, a clear idea of what kind of traps and fortifications will work, and a lair with real character. Too many lairs are just a few rooms in a generic cave or an easily accessible abandoned shack. We can do better. Think about it. Bandits are by nature trying to avoid the law and protect their stolen goods. They're not going to set up shop in the middle of an open field next to a major road unless they have an overwhelming force or a death wish. They're looking for spots that are hard to find, hard to assault, and easy to defend. The world is full of places that are naturally defensible, and picking a spot with natural protection is key. Why dig a trench when a canyon already exists? Now, I'm going to be choosing a specific location here, but let's go over a few other spots that a bandit could choose and why they work. Cave systems are the classic, but let's evaluate it. Not just any cave, but a complex cave system is the best for bandits. Think winding tunnels that are easy to get lost in, narrow passages that create choke points, multiple levels. A cave hidden behind a waterfall is a classic for a reason and great for hiding. And imagine a lair deep in the mountain only reachable through a half-mile gorge. Your players are totally exposed, funneled, easy pickings for archers on ledges above. A cliffside retreat is a lair that's built into the side of a sheer cliff, and it's a nightmare to assault directly. Access could be limited to a single rickety rope bridge, a narrow, winding path that's easily defended, or even a pulley-operated lift system controlled by the bandits. And this immediately gives defenders the high ground and limits a frontal attack. Players might need climbing gear, flying magic, clever diversions just to reach the entrance. A hidden camp deep within a tangled forest or a murky swamp offers excellent concealment. The terrain itself becomes a defense. Think overgrown paths that are easily ambushed, quicksand or bogs that act as natural traps, limited visibility that favors defenders who know the lay of the land. Think about a treetop village in a dense jungle, all connected by rope bridges. Instant elevation, cover, and tons of angles for bandits to shoot from. An old crumbling castle or a forgotten watchtower, or even the shell of a giant beast, can provide a ready-made defensive structure. But that also invites a head-on approach, which isn't necessarily what any bandit will want to do unless they have a massive force. If they're inviting attack for a specific reason, then yes, they should choose that kind of defense. But if they're not, if they work by stealth, then they shouldn't choose a castle. It's not good for them. It's only going to invite attention. And don't be afraid to get creative. What about a series of interconnected shipwrecks in a hidden cove? Or a lair built into the hollowed out shell of a colossal petrified creature? An urban lair hidden in the sewers or beneath a legitimate looking business front can offer some unique challenges. Or hey, what if your bandits run a legit ferry service, but their real base is some out of the way island they never usually go near? A good bandit lair shouldn't be on any tourist map. It needs to be hidden from casual discovery. And this isn't just about avoiding adventurers, it's about avoiding patrols and bounty hunters and rival gangs. The lair should blend in with its surroundings. A cave mouth can be hidden by dense undergrowth, or illusion masks a doorway, or a trap is concealed beneath a pile of refuse. Ruins are good for that. They naturally have blended into the landscape over the period of decades or centuries, and so that's why people tend to overlook them. But something that's a larger ruin, something that's more significant, that will show up on the maps, is not as good for that particular purpose. Misdirection is sometimes the best kind of camouflage you can look for. It doesn't look like a hiding spot. A legitimate seeming farmhouse with a hidden cellar complex or a small unassuming shrine conceals a larger entrance to an underground network. These are options that would really work for a bandit. And finally, if the area is near a civilized area, consider how the bandits will mask any noise or light. Thick walls or underground construction or magical silence can all play a role here. The last thing to think about when you're creating a hidden lair, or really any kind of lair for a bandit, is always have a back door. Because no matter how impregnable a lair seems, smart bandits, and they are, statistically, as smart as your players are, will always have an escape route planned. They will always plan for the worst case scenario. A fight going south, a surprise attack from a stronger force, or just the local dragon deciding their cave looks cozy. There must be at least one secret or hard to find escape route. Hidden tunnels, alternative exits, multiple different options leading out of the lair that they can take at any given opportunity. The other thing that you need to think about when you're creating any kind of human settlement, and it goes particularly when they have an isolated area, is of course the usual requirements. Food, water, warmth, and shelter are the basic humanoid requirements for life. And you need your lair to have those kinds of things. Where do they drink? What do they eat? Where do they have their fire or their shelter? That's the kind of thing. So mix these things together. Natural defenses, smart hiding spots, good escape routes, and you're not just picking a random dot on the map. You're giving the bandits a real home advantage, a place that helps them stay alive and kicking. And this placement will inform every other aspect of your lair design, from the outer perimeter warnings to the captain's last stand. And if your players have to sweat just to find and get to the lair, the victory feels bigger. The tension's already cranked up before anyone even draws a weapon. So, what we're going to do today is use the cliff ledge, an old ruin. A rookery, an ancient sort of birdhouse for a messenger group, has been abandoned for decades and is now the home for the bandits. It's a great location for the bandits because not only is it, in a great location, very difficult to get to, it gives them a huge perspective, a view of the area, so they can see anyone coming from a great distance. And that's fantastic for them. So we found this perfect strategic location for this bandit lair. How do we make it a tough nut to crack? The key is to layer the defenses. Think of an onion, or perhaps a particularly stubborn castle. You don't want to waltz into the throne room. You have to overcome multiple obstacles, each designed to wear down attackers and alert the defenders and give them time to react. A single strong door or a lone guard post isn't a defense, it's an invitation. Layered defenses mean that even if the players breach one layer, they immediately face another and another and another, and this creates a dynamic, involving challenge that rewards careful planning and punishes reckless abandon. The outer perimeter is the lair's early warning system, its first line of defense. The goal here is to detect intruders as early as possible, and ideally to discourage or weaken them before they even reach the main entrance. We're going to look at having lookouts and sentries, perimeter traps, natural obstructions enhanced. In this particular case, not only do we have all of those things and alarm systems for the bandits when they see them, because the rookery is high up on a cliff, they can see both methods of accessing it. Unless the players stealth successfully for a good half mile and then climb up the cliff without being seen, then they're not going to arrive unheeded by the bandits. The bandits will see them coming. If they come up the ledge on foot, then they've got a solid half mile directly in line of sight where the bandits are expecting them to be. And if they come up the lift, well, that's, a cranking, fidgety, rattling old contraption that the bandits themselves control. Either way, they will have a lot of early warning that people are approaching. They will have their own alarm systems and they will be prepared. And once they're past the outer warnings, the path to the actual entrance should be its own challenge, and the entrance itself should be a death trap. Think about the choke points. The fortified entrances have deceptions on where to invite people to go that are naturally dead ends, and have trapped passages if necessary. In this particular case, there are a couple of traps that are just built into the area. There's only one small bridge across the chasm that leads between the lift and the rookery. So let's say that the bandits see someone approaching up the lift, and they know who they are and they don't want them here. They just cut the lift crank. The lift tumbles down into the chasm, killing everyone aboard. Or they bring them up to the top. They'll find that there are no bandits there, and they try to walk across the bridge, which has been trapped. As soon as everyone's on the bridge, it collapses, flushes them all into the gully below, washes them down the river, and kills them all. There are a variety of different ways in which the bandits here can have prepared and strategically think about the tactics that they're going to be using to weaken, to damage, or even kill off the players before they even arrive at the front door. So once they've thought about the tactics, so once the players are at the front door and ideally are very weakened so far, have been taken down or disoriented, then you can think about the combat itself, about using strategy and tactics the best possible way. And this particular area has been chosen because there are two distinct parts to the rookery, and one leads naturally into the other. So you've got those sort of layered defenses leading to the final stand. Always, always, always have some placed guards that overlook key junctions or vulnerable areas. They should be located so that the bandits can quickly reinforce threatened sections. Whether or not they're ready to go, or whether there's going to be a clumsy scramble for weapons and armor if the alarm sounds, will make the difference. And think about how they can use, once again, the tactics, the weapons, any poison or any other kind of environmental hazards to their advantage. Because the bandits know their home turf. They will have designed spots with good cover, overturned tables, crates, low walls, or natural rock formations. The positions should allow them to use range attacks effectively and protect them from immediate reprisal. Consider areas that can be quickly barricaded if an alarm is raised. An inviting front door is very inviting, and if it's barricaded, will give the bandits plenty of opportunity to set up an ambush. And if one area is overrun, where do the bandits retreat to? There should be secondary defensive lines or strong points that they can fall back to, ideally leading attackers into further traps, into further ambush zones, and it creates a sense of fighting retreat rather than a rout. And don't just limit these kind of ideas to the exterior. Walls within the lair can have concealed openings, allowing bandits in adjacent rooms or passages to attack intruders who think they've cleared an area. Because multi-level lairs or multi-area lairs are inherently more defensible, and you can have balconies and ledges or catwalks that allow archers or spellcasters to fire down on intruders with relative safety. Rope bridges or ladders can connect elevated areas. We've got a bridge across the chasm, which really makes the players as vulnerable as possible and allows the bandits a just golden opportunity to knock them off into near certain death. And then finally, after they have approached and prepared and used tactics and then started the combat itself, they finally come to the last part of any bandit lair fight, which is the fight or the flight. You come to the boss area, the old tower in this particular case, high up on the rock. It's the final place to come to. It's where the bandits keep their treasure. It's where the bandit chief is. It's where the crux of this fight is going to be. Now, the first thing to remember is that this last stand is not only the most heavily defended part of the lair, it has multiple routes of entry for defenders. The leader should always have ways to be reinforced or to escape, even from personal quarters. Secret passages are the key here. And the leader's area might double as a command post from which they can direct the lair's defense, possibly with a view of key approaches. It should always be aware of everything that is happening. It should have an alarm system. It should have a view over the rest of the lair if it possibly can. And remember, they have chosen this lair for a particular reason, so there's no reason that it shouldn't have that kind of stuff. Yes, it will have the toughest, most loyal personal guard for the bandit. Yes, it will have difficult combat, but that's not the only part of the challenge here. Whenever you're dealing with humanoid, with intelligent creatures, you've always got to ask yourselves what they most want. Do they want to fight to the death, or do they want to leave as quickly as possible with as much money as they possibly can? And if so, why haven't they prepared a way of leaving earlier on that is much, much cleverer? If we have the waterfall here that leads down into the gully, why don't they tip out all of the treasure into the chasm below and then hightail it out into the wilderness? All the bandits scatter off while the players who are there for the treasure have to make the half-mile trip all the way back down into the gorge, into the middle of the chasm, which again is perfectly situated so the bandits can come back on top of the cliffs and then take pot shots at them. Think about the tactics. Bandits aren't good people, and neither should you be if you are running bandits, because you've got to kill a location and defenses like an armored onion. But what about bandits themselves? If they just line up and start charging like lemmings, all that clever design goes to waste. Smart bandits use smart tactics. They know every lair, they presumably want to live, and they should fight like it. We're not trying to make every bandit a tactical genius. Just have them act in ways that make sense and have them have thought this through beforehand. Their leader is almost certainly going to be either the strongest or the cleverest. If they are the strongest, they'll have someone in the group that can actually think their way through a problem. So if that is the case, they will have sat down and thought about the strengths and weaknesses of their troop. And you can tailor the lair for their strengths and to counteract any weaknesses that they might have. All right, there's so much more that I could say about how to use tactics and strategy, how to raise morale, how to use the action economy of certain NPCs in a particular way that helps your enemies and disengages your players, how many items and abilities and magic spells can be used to increase the effectiveness of your enemies. If you are fighting an enemy and you kill him and you search his body and he's got a potion of giant strength on him, why hasn't he used that? That bugs me. That bugs me. Why have you got loot on your enemies if they haven't used the damn stuff? A bandit lair that really works isn't just a room full of hit points waiting to get knocked down. It starts with a strategic location that gives them every natural advantage and keeps them hidden. It's beefed up with the layered defenses, meaning that every step your players take deeper into the lair brings fresh dangers, from lookouts and traps on the outside to strong points and choke points inside. And finally, it is filled with bandits who use smart tactics. They know their home, they fight with some coordination, and they actually want to live to spend their loot. They will use ambushes, hit and runs, try to control the fight. So when you combine these three things, you turn a potentially forgettable fight into a memorable siege, a real test of your players' smarts, of their intelligence, of their wit, and their ability to think outside of the box. They are approaching a fortress. It should be difficult. They are on the back foot. This is the bandits' home turf, and it should act like it. And that's the goal, isn't it? To create challenges that feel earned, victories that are truly satisfying. So once again, I did not talk as much about the actual specifics of creating a bandit lair as I might like. It's honestly worth me doing a whole series of videos on specific kinds of bandits, on outlaws, on using NPCs' mechanics to their greatest effect, in talking about how to use potions and spells and environmental hazards in a way that actually makes sense for bandits to do so. If you're interested in that, please let me know in the comments below, especially if you have a specific kind of bandit. Or if you think, I'd love to see a thieves' lair, or I want to see a cult's hideaway, or I want to fight a librarian. I mean, who doesn't? But if you want that kind of thing, stick it in the comments below. If you have a trick that your bandits use that you find is really, really effective against your players, please let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for new ideas. But that is finished. We have there the Rookery, a bandit lair that is, I think, perfectly suited to being used as a defensive hideaway. It's got those 3 different layers. It's got 5 different chambers. If you think about a dungeon in terms of being a chamber approach, this is outdoors, but it still has, the approach, the preparation, the tactics, the combat, and finally the last stand in the old tower. And that's how we build that up as well. So as always, thank you to everyone for watching this video. I have rambled a little bit at the end, but thank you to all of my subscribers, to my patrons, and my YouTube members. I couldn't do this without you guys. Tune in next week for our next really quick map. I have a whole series prepared, and let me know what you want to see in future, and I will create that for you. Have a great week, and I will see you soon. I'm disappointed in you. Sorry about that.